Hey everyone, this is Renier here from Spain. Okay, today we continue analyzing games from Aeroflot Open, and we're going to analyze the game between Quang against Cheparinov played in the 8th round of the tournament. I have great respect for Quang because I think he's the only one who has won this strong open twice in a row. He already won the tournament in 2010. Not only that, he also won the Moscow Open, played just a week before the Aeroflot, and then the next year, this year, he wins the tournament again. So it's something remarkable in my opinion. I chose to analyze the only game that he lost against Cheparinov in the 8th round, and he was leading the tournament by a full point, and even though after losing this game he was still tied for first. Okay, so we're going to see a very interesting King's Indian defense played by Cheparinov, who obviously wanted to win with black. Knight c3, bishop b7, e4, d6, d4, castle, bishop e2, the classical variation, e5, and then knight c6. Probably the only move with winning chances. I mean, of course black can win with any move, but this is the most sharp and the best in my opinion. d5, knight e7, and now knight e1. This is a line that Quang plays nowadays, with the idea of f3 and then g4. A reasonable plan because white hopes to stop black's attack on the king side, and looks reasonable. f3, f5, even all of this is theory. Then g4, and now black can choose between several plans. Of course, closing with f4 is not good in this position. White can simply play h4, knight g2, and then he has a free hand on the queen side. So, okay, king h8 or knight f6 are the most principal moves, or both, because black can play king h8 later after knight f6, like happens in this game. Knight d3, one of many moves. Knight g2 is also an option. Knight d3, then now c6. I want to draw your attention to this move because it makes sense with total tension in both sides of the board, not only the king side now but also in the center, and that's what black wants. He wants to open the position to blow the center, so he can somehow exploit the weakened position of the white king. Okay, after c6, bishop e3, king h8, preparing his next move, and now Quang played king h1. This is a rare move already. We are entering into unexplored positions. Okay, let's see some options. Probably h3 is the critical one, and it's not played. I mean, you can find a bunch of games with this move, old games in which white scores very well. Okay, the idea is of rook c1, queen d2, then c5 or even b4. Okay, and after consolidating the king side with the move h3. Another try is a4, aiming to prevent black's idea that we're going to see in the main game, but I don't like this move because after a5 white already should make a decision, and he's not ready to advance either with c5 or with b4. So after a move like king h1, which is probably necessary, black can play f4, bishop f2, and then c5, and the position is locked and black is in no danger at all. Probably white either, but it looks drawish already, but difficult to break through. Rook g1, g5, king g2, and then h5. G takes. Okay, white can play h3, but this is the best. G takes h5. Try to open the g file. This was played by two grandmasters this year in last year in Capelle Legrand, and then knight g6, rook f7, king c2. This is very boring chess. Rook b8, knight f2, bishop c3, bishop g7. The position is locked. Both sides tried. Eventually, they agreed to a draw. There are no ruptures, you can see. So that leaves the move a4. I think as a dubious try for white. Okay, I think the critical is h3. I haven't analyzed this move very deeply, but okay, still everything to be studied from this move. I'm just letting you know. King h1, a new. Well, the idea is well known. The king gets away to the h file. The rook has an extra square on g1, and he's ready for whatever happens in the center. The king is safer on h1. Now Cheparinov strikes with b5. Not a new move, but almost new. Not played very often. Let's see some options. For example, bishop d7, as played by King's Indian specialist Inar Kiev. This was played in 2009. Then after rook g1, bishop e8, queen d2. White has managed to control every reaction, so black should do something. F takes on e4, and then he tried with b5. Basically what white wants is to keep his space advantage at all cost. b3, rook c8, g5, driving the knight away from the center. There is no pressure on e4 anymore. And now in Kiev started interesting complications with knight takes on e4, knight takes, c takes, d5, and then knight takes d5. He has compensation. Probably, maybe, I mean, perhaps not enough to win, but to keep the game complicated and demand accurate play from white is enough. Rook c1, bishop c6, and now perhaps the best defense would start by king g1. After rook takes on c6, the move played in the game, rook takes, bishop g1, queen a8, black managed to obtain active play, even though he lost the game. Later, knight takes, queen takes, rook c2, bishop g2, and then d5. I believe that black was okay in this position already. Okay, later he lost the game after overpressing. For example, the game continued with e4, rook d1, rook c1, not necessarily at all. Maybe queen b7 or queen c6 are options here. Rook c1, queen d2, and now probably the final blunder is rook c2, which after queen takes on c1, rook takes, white has three pieces for the queen, and not easy for black to play this position. Eventually black lost. Okay, so if not bishop d7, other interesting move played by Bachir Lagrave was b6. Okay, b6, interesting idea of bishop b7, and then b5. Try to undermine the position there and to blow the center and somehow expose the white king on h1. Looks fairly impossible at this point, but who knows? No? After h3, as played in the game, bishop b7, king h2, b5. Black already is with some initiative. You can see that the move king h1, h3, then king h2, they don't look very productive for white. b3, c takes d5, rook c8, queen d2, and then a5 with very active play. White can never take on b5 because the a4 pawn is hanging. Also g5 now is risky with the pawn on h3, square g3 weak, and the king on h2. It doesn't look accurate. That's the move he played, and then knight takes on d5, knight takes, and f4. And suddenly is very difficult for white. Bishop f2, e4, f takes on e4, f3, bishop takes, rook takes on f3, and even though the game ended in a draw, probably black is winning here. Bishop g3, bishop c3, queen takes on c3, rook takes c3. Black has to be winning. Somehow white managed to achieve a draw, but his position seems to be losing. Okay, so this is b6. Then the move was played by another grandmaster against Quang Lien, and Quang Lien played differently. Instead of playing h3, he tried rook g1, which makes more sense. And after bishop b7, g5. Now things are different. Knight h5, queen d2, queen d7, a4, and it seems like black doesn't have enough active play. The knight on e7 is not very active. There is no way to open up the game, and after c takes d5, c takes f4, bishop f2, white was clearly better. Basically, if black doesn't have any active play, he doesn't have any compensation for his lack of space. h6, knight b5, putting some pressure, threatening queen b4 or rook a to c1, a6, knight a3, now going to c4, h takes, knight c4. Black is losing already. Rook b8, queen b4, knight c8, rook takes g5, king h7, rook g1. White is dominating on both wings. Rook g8, rook takes g6, knight g3. Nice combination, but no. After bishop takes d3, king takes g6, bishop takes f4, discover check, king h7, and now bishop g5 with the idea of f4, bishop g4, and bishop f5. Black is totally lost. Bishop h6, f4, he takes on f4, bishop g4, queen f7, bishop takes on h6. Now if king takes on a6, queen takes d6, wins on the spot. So he played desperate move, bishop takes d5, knight d2, a good move, king takes on a6, and now he takes on d5, queen takes d5, and here Quang Lien played queen e4, which led to a win later, but immediately knight e4 instead would have won quickly. The problem is that after queen takes d3, he has the move knight f6 with a double threat on f4, queen takes on f4 check, and also knight g8. There is no way to defend both, so black must resign. Okay, these are interesting games from this line, and just to get an idea of what's going on for both sides. Okay, in the game Cheparinov played probably the best move and the most interesting in this position, b5. Okay, undermining immediately white center. Okay, g5 makes sense. It makes sense to drive the knight away from the center. For example, after knight b4, let's say here with the knight still on f6, black can play c takes on d5, c takes, and now solid move would be a6 with the idea of bishop d7, rooks maybe and try to control the c6 square, bishop d7, and prepare a5 and b4. But I also think that a5 could create, perhaps even if it's not the most sound move, it could create practical problems for white. Difficult to solve over the board, because after knight c6, knight takes, d takes on c6, f takes g4, and b4, knight d5, knight takes on e4. It's not easy. Well, it's not easy to play for both sides. The position is extremely sharp after rook takes, queen takes, and now knight b6. Of course, none of these moves are forced, but they look like the best. Knight b6. The idea is to push c7 at the right moment, and now king g2. Apparently, black is in trouble. c7 could be a serious threat. Also, queen d5, trying to drive the knight away and then put pressure on d6. But he has this move here that creates some problems for white. Bishop h6. The idea is to enter over the dark squares. If bishop takes on a6, queen takes on a6, the knight on b6 is hanging, so white must waste time defending it. The position, I have to say, I went over the line with the help of a computer, and it's extremely sharp. I saw some amazing things here with black having compensation with the tremendous lack of material, but it's very, very crazy lines with many options, so I decided to stop here. Bishop a6, and you can draw your own conclusions here. So just to point out the differences between keeping the knight on f6 and not doing it. Okay, so g5, knight h5, and now knight b4. Previously we had seen c takes on b5, c takes b5, and then knight takes b5. White can win a pawn here, but after queen d7, knight c3, black has f takes on e4, f takes is forced, and then knight g3 check. Now black white cannot take on g3, because after queen h3, not only black has a draw if he wants, but he can also continue to play and probably win with queen takes on e3 with check. Queen h3, queen takes g3, king h1, queen h3, king g1, and then queen takes on e3. That position looks absolutely winning. So he has to play king g1 by force, knight takes on f1, bishop takes. And I have to say, black has an extra exchange, but the position is far from winning. White has compensation because of the knight on e7 is very poor, and he doesn't have it doesn't have any future. The position is not open for the rook, so you have to understand this position. Even though black is safe, the win is not something that is easy to achieve from here. Actually, in this game between two masters from China, I think, I'm not sure, rook b8, rook b1, bishop a6, bishop g2. All white has to do is not trade pieces and cover the entry squares like f3, knight f2, g4 as well, knight b6, and now b3. It's very difficult to think about black breaking in. Queen e7, h4, queen d2, queen d8, king h2, queen c8, and the position is about level up to this point. Perhaps one plan for white is bishop f3 followed by h5 and rook h1. That could be even dangerous for black. So don't get too excited if you win the exchange in one game like this and don't see a clear win. It's very complicated. I have this type of situations playing the King's Indian, and it's still very complicated even though you have the exchange, because white pieces are very compact and the light square bishop covers a lot of squares. In general, it's not simple. Also, instead of knight c3, white can try knight f2, defending the knight and getting away of a knight g3 trick, but knight f4 gives good compensation. Chasing the bishop on e2, bishop takes on f4, of course, is probably not good for white, who will activate the dark square bishop on g7. So Quang in this game played knight b4, and then after c5, the first new move of the game, and very interesting as well. We're going to see some very interesting lines starting now. Okay, previously b takes on c4 was the move played, and after d takes on c6, I think this is not the strongest move. a5, c7, queen takes, knight d5. Black has a very good game. Rook b8, the rook on b8 is very active. Queen c2, f takes, and knight f4. Well, actually the draw was agreed here after f takes on e4, but black has nothing to fear, and actually his game is promising after knight f4, bishop takes e4, and bishop e6, hoping to trade everything on d5 and use the open files. After all, it's the white king who will suffer the most in this position. So I think instead of d takes on c6 after b takes on c4, perhaps the best for white would be knight takes, and after knight takes, f takes on e4, knight f4, bishop takes c4, even though black can take on g5, rook g1, queen e7, and now b4 with the idea of b5 and consolidate the square and the pass pawn on c6. White can claim some advantage. Still, as you can see, with the open position of the white king, everything is very complicated. So okay, after c5, first new move by Cheparinov, knight c6, queen d7, very interesting concept, sacrificing the pawn on b5, not trading on c6, c takes b5, f takes on e4, and now the point is that white is forced to take with the knight on e4, and this leaves the f5 square available for the knight on e7, which is probably the most useless piece on black's camp in this line. The knight on e7 usually doesn't have any future, but in this case it can go to f5 and later to d4, as happened in the game. Let's see some lines. For example, if pawn takes on e4, then after knight g3 check, king g1, knight takes on f1, bishop takes on f1, we have a similar case to what we analyzed before. Black has an extra exchange, but the winning the game is not easy at all. Actually, there are no open files. If black tries to open the a file, white can play a4 and even on b5 take with the pawn and capture the rook on a1 with the queen, and it's not easy at all to win this position. So okay, if knight takes on e7, then this is a mistake, because black can play knight g3 check, and the best for white now would be to accept the draw, because the draw that happens here with perpetual check, because king g1 now is very weak after knight takes on f1, bishop takes on f1, queen takes on e7, f takes on e4. Black has the extra exchange, but with his next move and the typical move here, he obtains a clear, and I would say winning position. Rook f4, very strong move, forcing bishop takes on f4 and or winning the g5 pawn. So this position, this move probably wins the game. it gives black a clear advantage. I really like this move, rook f4. Alright, so knight takes on e4, the best move, knight f5, and now Quang Lien played queen d2. If bishop d2, then black has knight g3 check, and after pawn takes, queen h3, king g1, bishop f5 with strong threats like bishop takes on e4. So obviously this is not so good. Important to notice this idea of knight g3, queen h3, and then that is easy, but then bishop f5 is a little trickier. So queen d2, and now knight d4 is an interesting move, a fighting move. I think knight hd3 is less well, the problem is that black is always playing for a win, not a draw. Here perhaps after pawn takes, knight takes, king g1, queen h3, and now knight takes g3, Quang Lien can settle for a draw and keep his advantage in the tournament with one more round to go. And this Cheparinov could not accept it, of course. So he chose to play something to keep the game alive. I have to say that if white refuses to take the draw here, he can get in trouble. For example, knight takes on g3, king g1. If he, after queen h3, doesn't take the knight and plays a move like knight takes on d6, he's in trouble after bishop g4 with ideas of queen h1 and then capture on f3 with the rook. So okay, but knight takes on e3 is a draw. Instead of h takes, knight takes seems better, and here again white has compensation. The knight on c6 is strong, and again the exchange doesn't mean much in this position. Okay, so knight d4, position remains complicated, and now Quang Lien played b4, try to soften up the position of the knight and the position of black center in general, with the idea of b takes on c5, queen h3, king g1, and now knight takes on f3. To the same result would be rook takes on f3. We're going to analyze the position that happens here later. It's almost well, it's exactly like the game, but this is more forcing since after knight takes on f3, white has to take, rook takes, and now rook a to e1, the move played in the game. But let's see rook takes on f3. If rook takes on f3, queen takes, knight takes on d6, this seems to be more promising for white, even though it demands very accurate defense. Okay, after knight takes on d6, bishop h3. Of course, if knight f4, white is willing to trade everything, take on f4 and take on c8, and then push the d pawn as a source of counterplay. So knight takes on d6, bishop h3, queen f2, queen g4 check, king h1. Queen f2 is important because now after rook f8 he can play I think, yeah, he can play knight takes on e5. Important to notice that knight f7 check in this position loses to rook takes on f7, queen takes, and then queen e4 and mate on g2. So, but he has this amazing move, knight takes on e5. If rook takes on f2, knight takes on g4, and the rook on f2 is attacked, so white doesn't lose any material. Black has to play queen takes b4, and now, yes, now he can play knight f7, king g8, win the c5 pawn with the tempo into what it seems to be winning for white. Then after queen f4, tricky moves, trying to win one of the white knights. Rook e1, knight takes, knight f4, ideas of bishop g2, bishop takes d5, and have some counterplay with knight h3 check. But the white can defend very easily, I think. Bishop e3. The important thing is that the knight abandons the square f4. Bishop g2, king g1, bishop takes d5, and then the simplifications obviously are very good for white, who keeps an extra pawn, and the endgame seems to be winning. Okay, you can see that here Quang Lien missed an important chance. Instead he played rook e1, but this is often the old story in the King's Indian. White always has a defense that leaves him with advantage, but over the board the position is so complicated and so sharp that every little mistake can end up with a lost position for white. So white has to be careful, and that's why he plays such moves. Very often defensive moves that don't achieve what don't achieve to defend actually the position. So after rook a to e1, bishop g4, you can see that black's play is very direct. All he has to do is to bring pieces to the attack. Now with the idea of taking and bishop f3, and also rook a to f8, and there is nothing else to do. I mean, black is supposed to do this, but if he doesn't do this, then there is nothing to do at all. So bishop g4 with the idea of bringing the other rook, b takes on c5, rook takes on f1, takes, and then bishop f3, threatening the knight on e4. Position is not losing for white at all. I mean, there is still defense. Now Quang Lien played rook takes on f3. He had also knight g3. Of course, black cannot take on g3 because of rook takes on f3. And then after rook f8, knight takes on h5, g takes on h5, rook f2. With the rook on f2, there is no mate, and it looks like black doesn't have sufficient material over the king side to mate. If queen g4, then king f1, and the king is safe. So this was a defense, a possible defense for white. He decided to be more radical, and he played rook takes on f3, queen takes, and then knight f2. Yes, this looks very good as well. The knight on f2 is an excellent defender, and white is putting his hope on the d5 pawn. Queen f5, c takes d6. Now is the d6 pawn, who is only 2 squares away from promotion. And now black played knight f4, a good chance. And here Quang Lien seems to play the final mistake, which is bishop takes on f4. After this move, after surrendering this bishop, black is absolutely winning, because the pawn gets into play. The bishop on g7 also participates on the attack, and there is no defense after this. The best would be h4, and still the position, not everything is said about this position, because the knight on f2, you can see that it covers g4 and h3, and after rook f8, king h2, knight h5, bishop c5, the queen cannot abandon that square on f5 because the threat is d7. So probably black white doesn't have to lose this game from here. After bishop takes on f4, it takes on f4, thing change. If h4 now, then he plays f3 with the idea of rook e8 and rook e2. d7 is never a threat. The queen on f5 defends very easily, and also the knight on c6 doesn't do anything. It's covered all the time with the bishop on g7. It cannot return to the king side or anything, so this is no point analyzing anymore. Queen d3 was played, then queen takes e5. There is nothing white could do to retain that pawn. King f1, everything happens very forced now. f3 threatening queen g2, of course, so he has to take. But now rook f8, the f file is open, and after queen d3, queen f4, attacking the d6 pawn, the knight on f2, and everything is great for black now. Cheparinov is winning the game, is joining the lead of the tournament. He doesn't miss anything now. Queen take d5, a4, just another move, and doesn't do anything defending b5, but white knows that the game is downhill already. Bishop d4, knight takes, queen takes d4, a5, rook f6, going after the most dangerous pawn first, a6, king g7, a7 check, queen takes a7, queen e5, queen d7, preventing knight g4, also threatening to take the pawn on d6, and then after knight d4, queen g4, and black mates first. After king h1, queen f3, king g1, queen f1 is mate. Okay, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this game. I tried to shed some light on the g4 lines, which are, I think, always a complicated subject in the King's Indian. How to play, what's the best plan. I have to say I'm not convinced by black's idea. There has to be something better, but everything seems to be very I mean, unexplored. That's the exact word. This line seems to be unexplored, and there are new plans, I think, to be found. The idea, you can see that Bashir played this b6, and there are only 2 games with this move. Doesn't seem convincing to me, but okay, there is everything to discover, so I leave it up to you. And okay, hope you enjoyed the game. Keep watching. Any comments or suggestions, just leave it on the forum, and I'll sure answer you very quickly. Okay, thanks for watching, and bye bye.